Well, welcome everybody, and we're back again with diversity in chapter 11. And today we want to continue on by looking at some of the dimensions of diversity, which include discrimination and ethnocentrism and some of the terms that you need to know. Now, yesterday we looked at Title VII of the Civil Rights Act, and that kind of gave you an introduction into the legal obligations that we have as business leaders in the workplace when it comes to diversity and so forth. So today I want to get into some terms and some ideologies that you need to be aware of as we continue on with workplace diversity and leading diversity. Okay, everybody, today we're going to continue on with diversity. And yesterday, if you remember, we saw that little video clip of Title VII, which really is the labor dimension of the Federal Civil Rights Act of 91. Now, today we're going to take a look at some other dimensions, and we're going to go ahead and look at some more elements that encompass diversity, such as women and cultural diversity and so forth. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, there have been changing attitudes towards diversity. Prior to the incorporation of the Civil Rights Act, we really didn't spend much time with dealing fairly with people in the workplace. We still segregated and discriminated, but we had legal shifts. We had demographic changes. Today we have a society that really has a diverse representation, cultures, values, religions, and so forth. So there have been what we call the demographic changes, shifting social values. Here in America, we didn't have much of a regard for other races in the past, especially in the 60s. So those social values have shifted now as we have become more inclusive. We have really a new appreciation for people of color and religion and values and so forth. And then globalization. We have many people who have migrated here from other countries. We've assimilated them into our population, and now they are a part of our workforce. So we have the global dimension of diversity that has really come and helped to reshape the landscape of business. Now, these are just some basic statements about diversity. Diversity of thought aids in achieving high performance. And that's pretty much true because you have different perspectives looking at an issue or an objective, and that diversity and number or volume of suggestions and insight can help you. It gives you a broader and deeper base of ideas, opinions, and experiences. It does increase creativity and innovation. If everybody is of like mind and attitude and values, then you're not going to get very far. So you do need that element there of creativity and innovation brought on by diversity. Financial competitiveness. If we are going to capture a diverse market, we have to have an organization that is diverse. And today we see companies getting into trouble because they are not hiring enough minorities, and as a result, their bottom line suffers for it. So we need to be able to have a diverse workforce so that we can approximate the population as it is and gain the loyalty of customers who we might not have gained had we not been diverse. And we need to meet the needs of those diverse customers. Again, if we're going to expand our markets, we have to know that there are different cultures and our product needs to meet those demands. So we see that in diversity as well. Now, minorities do face challenges. Ethnocentrism is a belief that one's own culture and subculture are inherently superior to other cultures, and we call that really racism. We believe that perhaps your race or your culture is better than everybody else, which is what we saw in Nazi Germany. We see today all of the yelling and screaming about whites being racist or individuals being Nazis. This came back from Germany, where Germany were racist. They were against Jews, they were against blacks, they thought they were the superior race. So that's ethnocentrism. Prejudice is having an adverse feeling or opinion formed without regard for the facts. Really, it stems from your upbringing, your culture. If you have a ethnocentric culture, you're really not going to base opinions on facts, and we see that reversed today when we poll people and ask people, what does it mean to be racist, or would you say that white men are racist, and so forth. They don't have an opinion. They don't know. They've just heard it so much that they believe it. And the psychology of it all is that if I perceive it, or if I'm told something and I just take it at face value, I'm going to believe it. And facts really don't come into play. So those are what we call prejudices. Stereotypes is a belief or an image, usually inaccurate, usually irrational and exaggerated, about a particular group of people. We stereotype Jews as being selfish. We stereotype women as being bad drivers, for instance, Mexicans as being lazy, white men being racist. Those are stereotypes. We are associating them with negative connotations that really can't be substantiated by the facts, but yet we tend to follow those beliefs. Discrimination is treating people differently. And from what you saw yesterday, and the reason why I wanted to show you that video on Title VII was to give you an idea of how the federal government views discrimination. But it's treating people differently based on your attitude or stereotype of them. It's not only unchristian, unethical, immoral, but it's also illegal. So you can't do that. Glass ceiling is the invisible barrier that women claim and minorities claim to have from top leadership positions, and we can substantiate that. Women have been in the past denied positions of higher authority. But today, I believe the glass ceiling is an indicator of the lack of women in those positions or are trying to attain those positions. We have very little representation of women actually going into CEO positions. Now, there are women who are CEOs of corporations, and that number is growing. And I believe that is really the reason why we see the glass ceiling today. I'm not saying there wasn't a glass ceiling on minorities and women today, but today I believe the opportunities are there for both minority and for women. But that's a matter of debate. But the glass ceiling is preventing people from going higher than a certain level because of their race or gender or whatever you have that you consider negative about that person. Now, Exhibit 11.2 looks at the responsibility of high-achieving men and women and the domestic responsibilities, and you see by and large that women have a more profound responsibility when it comes to domestic responsibilities. Now, that is how it's been. It's neither good nor bad because many women have chosen that type of life. Only recently have we really seen women come into the workplace and wanting to be a viable presence in the workplace. And I'm talking as really as recently as the 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s. Many women were emerging into business, but by and large, a lot of women wanted to stay home as well. So today what we're seeing is a change in that, but yes, today still women carry the brunt of domestic responsibility in the home. Now, women as leaders, you have the idealized influence. And here we're talking about the follower's identity with and want to emulate the leader. The leader is trusted and respected, maintains high standards, is considered to have power because of who she is rather than what position she holds. So you have people in history who have been influential leaders among women. For instance, you've had Steinem, who was a champion of women's rights and so forth back in the 60s and 70s and so forth. And there have been other women too who have inspired other women. You have inspirational motivation and leaders who appeal emotionally and symbolically to employees, desire to do a good job and help achieve organizational goals. I was watching a commercial that looked at Latino women who have excelled in their field of expertise, and the commercial would talk about how much they had to combat stereotypes and discrimination and all that, but yet they emerged as leaders. And today we can use them as role models. They are, as we see here, inspirational leaders and so forth, but really they inspire because of the emotional impact they have on other women. Now you have individual consideration, and each follower is treated as an individual, but all are treated equally. Individual needs are recognized and assignments are delegated to followers to provide learning opportunities. So you want to treat them as individuals, but you want to treat them equally, and that's just mutual respect. You recognize them and you assign things to them not based on their sex, but their ability. And as they are assigned things and as they grow in the organization, we consider these learning opportunities or give them learning opportunities to further grow. And a comparison of male and female leaders by their subordinates. And you see many here who have the different types of influences and the percentages of those influences. So you can take a look at that. I've heard that many women do not like to work for other women because they seem to be harsher than men in those leadership positions. And many of the women will admit that are in leadership said, yes, we tend to be more assertive, we tend to be bolder, we tend to be more outgoing and aggressive. And that's because they feel the need to be able to not just perform, but to be able to outperform their male counterparts, because the men are more likely to be seen in a more positive manner than the women will. So there are still those influences there of, the male presence in the workplace and women trying to break those stereotypes and those barriers so that they can be out there and be more present in the workplace as well. Now, we're moving with Exhibit 11.4 into more of a cultural dimension. How do you shake hands? Well, something as small as that can have a profound influence on your ability to work with other cultures. Some see it as an offense if you don't greet a proper way. In Asia, they have maybe a gentle approach to it. Shaking hands is unfamiliar and uncomfortable for some Asians. British, you have a soft handshake. French, light and quick. German, brusque and firm. Latin America, you have a moderate grasp. Middle East, gentle, repeated frequently. And North American, it's firm. I never will forget, I had a church member, a woman actually, and when I've always heard a gentleman doesn't offer his hand to a lady. He waits until she presents her hand first and then you shake it. Really, I've seen women extend their hands and they won't, shake your hand as well as the men do and so forth. But I normally will have a firm handshake for men and a soft handshake for the women if I shake their hands. And one woman said, Brother Tom said, don't gently shake my hand. She said, shake my hand like a man would shake. You would shake a man's hand. And that was the most awkward thing for me, because I'm used to, I was raised in my culture is that you be more gentler with the women. But this particular woman wanted me to shake hands with her just like she was a man. Now, she wasn't gender-wise or sexually perverted or anything like that. She just was that type of rough around the edges. She was by no means petite as far as her demeanor or really her appearance. She was a healthy 50, 60-year-old woman, but she just wanted you to grab her hand like you would a man's hand. So that was a challenge for me. I have, in my experience with other cultures, have met individuals who really don't like to shake hands. There are some cultures that avoid that, and I've seen some cultures too that hug necks and hold hands. I was in India a couple of years ago, and I was going around town with a missionary, and as we were driving through the city, I noticed guys were walking together holding hands, and they would sit down in the grass and hold hands. And I'm asking the missionary, I said, are all of these guys gay? And he said, no. He said they are masculine as any other man would be, but in their culture they hold hands. Now, it's kind of funny, but that same culture, those same Indian males do not wear shorts. Wearing shorts is a sign of femininity. Men are to wear pants, long pants. And believe me, in the heat, I would have loved to have worn some shorts over there at that time. But they would hold hands like they were in a relationship, but yet they demanded that men wear pants and not wear shorts. So get to know the cultures if you're going to do business with them. That's going to be crucial for you in today's business environment, to be able to understand the nuances that occur as we try to navigate relationships and try not to offend anybody in the process of doing so. Well, that's all we're going to do for today. Now, tomorrow we're going to go and look a little bit more into the cultural aspect of diversity. But until then, you have a good day, and we will resume tomorrow. Well, today you got a little bit more of an exposure to diversity. We looked at those terms that I mentioned earlier in the introduction: ethnocentrism, discrimination, and some of these practices that you need to understand that will get you in trouble if you violate them and so forth. So today it was good to be able to look at the types of diversity that we have with gender, with especially with women in the workplace and their ability to move up, and minorities' abilities to move up. And we took a look at some of the issues that surround the glass ceiling and all of that. So that'll be enough for today. Tomorrow we'll look at a cultural perspective of diversity. Until then, you have a good day, and we'll see you tomorrow.